Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Game Hub. I'm your host, Gamer K. I love when a plan comes together, especially when that plan is derived from a lot of media, from a lot of movies to video games to TV shows. Anytime a big plan is in the works throughout the majority of the show, whether the audience knows it or not, and when the big reveal happens and the plan is fully explained, it's always amazing seeing how little pieces fall into place as you start to realize. And in video games, having the person come up with the said plan and have it come to fruition, again, whether the player knows it's going on or if they know it's going on, but then some pieces fall into place where it goes over their heads. And I'm going through my top 13 video game masterminds. Basically, the brains behind every little bit of the scheme that goes on throughout each game. Now, obviously, a lot of rules. One, only games I've played and finished, because I can't really judge something based on something I've never played. Only one is an exception, because I watched the game played. It was a Facebook game, one of my favorites, and the scheme is so odd, but I love it so much. So I will be including it because I've watched it all numerous times from one of my favorite YouTubers, who apparently is back after a long hiatus with his family. So I love that. 2, one schemer or mastermind per game series. So I can't have so many Assassin's Creed people, because a lot of them do have a lot of good schemes and goals, but only one from each series can be in my ranking. Now, how I'm ranking these is kind of the same as a lot of other particular lists. For one, how much of the plan is done throughout the series before the big reveal of the whole plan. 2, how much even though the plan comes to fruition, how much of it is successful? Like, if it's successful for a little bit, but then it's ruined near the end, then it's lower on the list. Or, for example, kind of like how I did my video game traitors and backstabbers. The longer the betrayal can go unnoticed by the player, the higher it is on the list. The easier it is to snuff out the traitor, the lower they are on the list. So, plans that come to fruition but aren't like a big focal point, or it hasn't been introduced yet, lower on the list. Plans that are throughout the entire game and succeeds, higher on the list. So let's get on with it. This is Gamer K's Top 13 Video Game Masterminds. And why Top 13? Because here on the Game Hub, only the odd can be number 1. Okay, where is Josh Scorcher's Kingdom Hearts jar? Because I need to put a 10 in there. Kingdom Hearts has been a game that has a lot of complicated plots, a lot of complicated plot holes, and a lot of complicated characters. And honestly, some of their goals are pretty much intertwining most of the time. So, a lot of you are expecting Xehanort or some other character on this list. I'm going for a character that has almost not that much screen time, but his whole scheme sets up the events of the entire series. I am talking about one of the most enigmatic characters of all time, the Master of Masters. This guy is a riddle wrapped in an enigma inside of a conundrum with a go F yourself over an 18 years or older sign. This guy doesn't give anything. Like, every little bit he's in, like, I've watched the game. I've watched the gameplay of X. I've watched the cutscenes of the foretellers. I've seen what this guy is doing. But at the same time, we know nothing about his scheme. The one thing I love about the Master of Masters is that everything he's done, went the way he thought it was. Giving all the Foreseers their roles, giving Lu Shu the box and his Keyblade, Lu Shu then becoming my favorite character of all time, orchestrating the events of Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep, 1, 2, Chain of Memories, 3, Dream Drop Distance, and so on. Everything that this entire series is because of this one guy, and yet he has little to no screen time and little to no main moments. But I do like that, though. It's basically like that hidden figure that's always controlling everything, but he's controlling nothing. Just everything has gone the way he said it would, or the way he planned it would. But what's the final end game? I have no clue. And that is why the Master of Masters is on the very bottom of this list. Because as amazing as whatever his scheme is and how perfectly planned out it was, he's not that much in the story itself. He's got nothing to do with the majority of the characters except for Lu Shu and the Foreseers and Xehanort himself. So obviously, bottom of the list. But I'm hoping that his scheme comes with an instruction manual for when we get him back. And I swear to God, if we don't get a badass boss fight from him, I'm going to be... From a couple of years ago, in the bring back of Mario and Luigi, we have the absolute most original villain in the world, kind of. The lonesome of them all, Reclusa from Brothership. His scheme, his plan is so simple. Be reborn in each world he's reincarnated in his egg. Corrupt someone into getting all the gloam energy he needs in order to awaken. Put every citizen into a trance state of perfection with his VR headset flowers and rule the world as it's lonesome and then destroy it when he gets bored. Man, he sounds like a Gen Zer. But seriously, Reclusa is a great villain. Great villain with a scheme that is so simplistic, dividing up the world and keeping people apart, and so he can rule all as in a lonely kingdom. It kind of sounds like one of those schemes that you would debate with a hyper-intelligent being in order to make them self-destruct, that everything will be them, so what will they do next? It kind of would have worked that way, and I'm glad that we didn't get a Bowserized version of Reclusa. As much as I do love him, though, again, his scheme falls very, very flat because it's only kind of fully realized in the last little bit of the whole scheme, which, again, is one thing I like about the schemes, but it just feels not as impressive because all of it hinges on him manipulating someone else and then them manipulating other people in order to do what he wants. And again, it's not that, compared to all the other schemes I've got on this list, this just has not that much planning and not that much anything. Because what happens if when he's reincarnated, no one finds him? What if he's just on a random island and no one finds him? So, yeah, that's kind of my only if with it. But otherwise, Reclusa, great villain, and definitely proved himself to be a new one on my Mario characters list. So, again, great character. And from seeing what that was done after the last of the Mario and Luigi series, and it's back, I can only hope that the next villain of the series tops Reclusa. Very rarely will I talk about this game, but it's one of my personal favorite detective games, L.A. Noire. Basically, we go around each desk from traffic to homicide to vice to arson and solve all the cases that go on in between. And a lot of them are really well written. Some of the best fictional cases I've ever played. But as always, when there's criminals, whenever there's the police, there's always a seed of corruption within the glitz and glamour of Hollywood. And the scheme is to build fake houses for returning GIs using cheap lumber, just so when the freeway is being built in the path of these houses, the people get paid the improved value of the land. Yeah, of all the schemes I thought it was going to be when I first played LA Noire, that wasn't even on the highlight. I thought that, like before, I thought they were just burning cheap houses for insurance money. Because, you know, with a life insurance agency making the policies, they can fake how much the houses are worth. But no, it's the opposite around. By having the houses be worth a lot, when the government pays back the land, they have to pay that amount. So they make millions and millions of dollars. And this whole scheme, while it has a bunch of people from the Suburban Redevelopment Fund, its two main heads are Dr. Harlan Fontaine and business tycoon Leland Monroe. These guys, okay, Leland shows up at the end of the game arson case, because a lot of the cases revolve around his whole thing. That kind of pokes a big hole in his giant Titanic. But Harlan Fontaine has been referenced and showcased throughout the game through the newspaper clippings that give a deep backstory into the full picture of the whole what's going on behind the scenes of what we're doing throughout our cases. And it doesn't become relevant until the end of the Vice cases, and then throughout the rest of the arson cases. And their scheme is brilliant, to have so many people invest within the Suburban Redevelopment Fund, and to use the promotion of bringing of new homes for returning GIs from the war, from the Korean War? No, the Korean War was in the 50s. This is 47. In Japan, from all those all the returning army soldiers coming back and giving them new homes. It is such a big goddamn scheme that it's almost done without a hitch, except for the part where Harlan decides to use his position as a therapist to manipulate an old GI who was suffering from PTSD to use fire as a coping mechanism and to burn down the houses. But then, sadly, some people were stuck in the building, so then he sees his calling to help people by burning them alive. Yeah, Harlan, I know you're a criminal mastermind and everything, but if you're going to do this work, maybe you should have had people who weren't going to go off the fucking rails and destroy your whole plan and have it all come to light. Seriously, the reason they're out the Leland and Fontaine are this low on the list is because the scheme went unnoticed by a majority of people, but the fact that they got someone who's a loose cannon, who was mentally unstable, to do the fires, and it ended up screwing them in the end game, not the smartest plan, honestly. I mean, it's still on the list because of how ingenious in concept the plan was, but execution-wise, not the best. Also, for those of you who don't know, the voice actor of Leland Monroe is the same voice actor of Scarecrow from Arkham Knight. So, if you ever see him at a convention, just giving you some note. LA Noire may have been one of my favorite detective games of all time, and I'm still hoping Rockstar will give us something new, but maybe that plan might not go as well. Okay. Usually Batman villains, the scheme doesn't really go that well, or the big focal point plan doesn't really go well. However, it quite honestly is the best Batman Arkham game of all time. We got a scheme that did the entirety of the game, and again, it was perfectly done. And the masterminds behind I did put at the beginning of the video that there's going to be spoilers, obviously, for the games, right? Okay, just wanted to double check. We have the masterminds of Arkham City and Protocol 10. We have Hugo Strange and Ra's al Ghul. building an intense supermax prison with old art Gotham, putting all the criminals in there so they can fight amongst themselves without the citizens, only for it to be used to put political enemies of Hugo Strange and Quincy Sharp into Arkham City, and for Protocol 10 to prove that he lost control, so they need to destroy the entirety of the city and all the criminals in there. Conditions which Hugo Strange created just for the sake of being given the okay. And all of it being Ra's al Ghul's plan to wipe out the criminal element mostly from the world so he can cleanse the world. My God, is it fucking complicated. At the same time, it's pretty good. It's a pretty good scheme. It's a pretty good plan. But at the same time, Hugo Strange, while he lords over the entirety in his Wonder Tower, and Ra's al Ghul does play a smidge of the whole situation, the reveal of Ra's al Ghul being the true puppet master behind Strange was fine. I mean, it's not the best, but at the same time, it's not the worst plot ever. I mean, it's a hell of a lot better than Leland Monroe and Fontaine, because at least they didn't get a psychopath to run things. Oh, wait. That's actually not true. Otherwise, the plan almost went good until they made the decision of getting Batman into the entire situation in order to get rid of him. It's almost like, yeah, like in LA Noire, when they literally had a psychopath causing deaths that brought a detective in who couldn't be bought off. You know what? I'm really glad this is only number 10 of the list, because now I can get into some of the better options on the list. Oh, Watch Dogs. Ubisoft's punching bag for bad games, basically. Except for number 2, which I really loved. Now, a lot of the plans in this don't really have that much tension or build-up or suspense until especially in the main game, because there's not really a big scheme. I mean, there is, but at the same time, it's not really that well done. Until we get to the DLC Bad Blood, where T-Bone is being hunted by Bloom, and then in the last chapter of the game, we finally figure out one of the fixers tracking us is Default, the rat-faced hacker who we thought we got rid of in the main game, but no, it was just a decoy. And he's taunting Ray throughout the last chapter of the game and invites him to a location where things get real bad. Default made an entire animatronics that reenacted the 12 deaths that happened because of Ray's hack that basically blacked out Chicago, proving that there are flaws in the system, while at the same time, numerous people died because of that, because of the lockdown. And an elevator went crashing, someone died of heat stroke, a pacemaker went off, someone couldn't call 911 because they were being mugged. And each diorama showcases what happens. And using facial masks, Default recreates the victims. And at the end of it, we see a hanging body with Default's mask on it, revealing that Default's brother was on suicide watch during the blackout, and he got out, and, well, yeah. And Default obviously blaming Ray for the entire thing, but not wanting to twist the knife a little bit more and make Ray feel the guilt that he did all those years ago, which Ray doesn't really have a lot of, I mean, he's the Joker of the whole game. He's got a lot of personality, and I love him, and I love him even more in Watch Dogs 2. But for him having to deal with the guilt that of what he caused, trying to do good, but he ended up hurting so many lives, it just showcases that he had a lot of guilt going on around him, and this just brings it all up. And I like that this wasn't done throughout the game. It was mostly just him trying to escape the hackers and everything, and escape Bloom and the Fixers and try to get out. But to have Default bring this last act twist, and then the final part where Default connects the 11 remaining loved ones of the victims of that night, and have them watch Ray in an empty room that's going to be filled with carbon monoxide, and basically saying, you want him to suffer for what he did? Continue watching. If not, cut off your feed. While 3 of them do cut off after Ray's pleading, and that he does feel bad for what he did, but Default shouldn't have brought them back into it to relive it. Because if they do kill him, they'll feel the same guilt. But sadly, a majority of votes. And I do like that it was like a jury, including Default. 12 angry jurors. But Default's scheme sadly goes around when being able to hack the system, Default becomes a rat trapped in a rat trap and is basically gas chambered with the carbon monoxide. It's a twisted seeing thing to see, but it just goes to show when you go out for revenge, you end up with nothing. And in this case, more than nothing. What gets Default on this list is the fact that the scheme is done very, very late in the game, but it's something that's been made years within the events of the main Watchdogs, but we don't really know about it. Because having to set all that up takes years of planning and a lot of work. So I do love that they implemented something like this into Bad Blood. But again, it's at the last of the game. It doesn't really happen. It's at the last of the DLC. It doesn't happen a lot. Doesn't really have a lot of foreshadowing of the main's focus. So it's still a better scheme than the lower half. So I give it a little bit of a plus. The 2009 Ghostbusters video game. Many claim this to be the third unofficial movie of the original Ghostbusters movies, before they started cramming out a lot of them and them not being particularly that great. And it's so shocking that they bring back a character from the game and from who's been mentioned throughout the series into the last movie, only for him to be, I'm not going to lie, J.K. Simmons, pretty good acting for that. I still don't like the movie at the same time, because this did it better. The grand mastermind of the entirety of the game. Honestly, I wasn't thinking that much of a big scheme until, it's not really revealed of a kind of a whole systematic scheme until the second to last level, when it's revealed that the female character who's obviously on Venkman's trail, Alyssa Selwyn, is connected to the giant Gozerian device that has been channeling ghostly energy into the mandala. And the whole thing was orchestrated by the mayor. Which is actually her descendant, the ghost of Ivo Shandor. Okay. Of all the twists that happen on this list, this one actually was one of the first ones that fully got me when I first played the game. I mean, all evidence kind of led to Peck. Although I do like that Shandor used that against us. Possessed the mayor, got Peck to sick on us to slow us down. And then when we finally defeated the mechanism to feed ghost energy, he basically uses all the ghosts that we had in our containment field. And his whole reasoning for this is actually pretty brilliant. Because he did this for Gozer, but Gozer failed not once, but twice. Kind of makes you wonder what the guy you're worshiping is even that great. So then he went to the whole obvious thing. Why worship a god when you can just become one? And I'm going to be honest, his Destructor form is actually pretty badass and kind of one of the simplest boss fights ever. but it's still absolutely badass. They didn't go super overboard. They didn't go super corny. They just went super badass and epic. What makes Shandor a great mastermind is, again, by possessing a character and then having us think it's the wrong guy all game long. Considering we have a lot of beef with the prick, I love it. It's definitely something that needs to be done more in a lot of games. Have a lot of misdirect without the misdirect seeming like a misdirect. And I know I'm using a lot of similar comments, but come on. How can you not with the Ghostbusters game? For a character that's never been shown throughout the entirety of the Ghostbusters movies, except for the last one, I'm not even discussing that, given the villain, who is basically the whole response for Gozer, giving him a great plan in a video game, it definitely gets high notches up there. Sadly, Shandor didn't stand a ghost of a chance against the Ghostbusters. Never thought I'd be talking about the Nancy Drew series ever again after I completed my last game review of it. I mean, there are a lot of good things to talk about it. Some of the criminals. And out of the games I played, the one Mastermind shockingly comes up in the anniversary game for the 25th game. We have Brenda Carlton. This chick is absolutely genius. Having this entire scheme be done in Nancy's hometown of River Heights, Brenda frames her for burning down the city hall. And I love everything about Brenda's scheme. The fact that once we find enough evidence, for example, the scheme, and here's the thing, unlike most Nancy Drew criminals, once the culprit's revealed, it's usually like an endgame puzzle where we trap them or defeat them or something like that. But no, we find out Brenda is the culprit obviously near the end of the game, and here's the thing, she flat out admits it. She admits that she's the one who set her up and started the fire. And why? Is it because there's a long lost treasure in City Hall and the fire was just to get reason for it to be demolished so she could cover? No, it's to discredit Nancy, ruin her reputation, and for Brenda to cover the news about it. Again, no treasure, no real ancient secrets, no nothing about that. Just an actual vendetta. And I do love that it almost worked. Right from the get-go, Nancy was locked in jail. Her friends found evidence that someone else could have done it. Then Nancy's released. And then after investigating, we do find out that we also find the secret tunnels under the city that Brenda found in order to get through the city, and how she collected so much evidence and dirt on everyone. Again, for a modern villain, for without any mystical bullshit or something so complicated, her scheme was actually pretty ingenious. And if it wasn't for the fact that she kept evidence of her involvement, I will say this though, Brenda Carlton from what I found from watching a lot of YouTubers who play these games, she was basically a generic character in a lot of the novels. So the fact that they gave her a big role for the 25th anniversary game, that's amazing. And for her to have such impact in one game definitely showcases that rivalry is a bitter thing, and it definitely gets the better of us sometimes. But Brenda... Okay, this is the one I was talking about from Criminal Case. One of my favorite series to watch because, again, playing a Facebook game takes a lot of time. I still love it. And going into season 4, season 5, The Conspiracy. We get, from the entirety of the series, or at least from a scheme that happens in the background of every single district. When a satellite fell to Earth a year ago, the company Dream Life quickly built the dome over it in order to contain radiation. But that's not the entire thing. The entire mastermind was done by the secret group Ad Astra, which is a member of 5 people who think they're superior to everyone. And technically they are. But they actually found a meteorite that had a special substance in it, and after a lot of experimentation, could remove someone's inhibitions and make them completely subservient to people. And by using it to turn the entire populace into sheeple, with Ad Astra leading the way. And we have the Ad Astra members, and above all that, we have the entirety of the Ad Astra team. Rosetta Pierre, Julia Stiles, Christian Bateman, Joe Warren, and Remy LaRoe. All 5 of them we've met throughout the game. Rosetta being the leader, being the tech genius who's responsible for Dream Life. Julia being the agricultural person who was utilizing the chemical and injecting it into her corn crops so that the entirety of Grimsboro would be eating this chemical, so that they would be until they've been manipulated into basically being sheeple again. Christian Bateman being the finance guy to finance all their operations. Joe Warren being the deputy mayor and then future mayor, which gave them a lot of political access. And Remy being a news guy who could keep the news quiet about the satellite and control the media about it. All of this also stems from Rosetta's own mother, who cloned her. She was a cloned human, and to use this substance enhanced to give the Ad Astra superpowers so they could take down Rosetta's mother and her own army of perfect clone beings. This does take place in real life, right? I mean, okay, yeah, some of the seasons take place in reality, but I'm glad that we got some crazy... for a season called The Conspiracy, it would have been so effed if they made it such a simple conspiracy like they did in the previous seasons. But season 5 went out with a big goddamn bang, and Ad Astra being there right from the get-go. But the real villain, I mean, they are the real villains, but then seeing the entirety of their scheme unravel as we deduce it, as we go through all the murder cases and find out the truth, it's definitely a wild, wild ride, and it was definitely something that went over all our heads as viewers of Criminal Case. So, I will say this, their scheme, they may have been the stars, but then their stars burned out in the end. There's no segue into this one. Crystal Malik from Psychonauts 2. Crystal Malik being of... I can't even explain this half the time because it's so bizarre of a scheme, but it works. Being the son of the Tsar of Grulovia, and basically a power-hungry tyrant, wanting to bring his country back to fame by bringing back the deluge of Grulovia. What was her name? Maligula, back from the dead by finding out where she is. Unfortunately, the only person who could do that was Ford Cruller, and his mind is fragmented. So, he does the obvious. He brain swaps, he infiltrates the Psychonauts as a male guy, and then takes out his brain, kidnaps the head of the Psychonauts, putting his brain inside of it, inside of Truman's, Zanotto, the head of the Psychonauts, tricks Raz into fighting the Delusionists, a cult, by trying to get Ford's mind, fixing Ford's mind, finding Hoot Reclusa, and bringing her back. And what makes this plan so fucking crazy is that inside of his own mind is... The Fossilizer said it best. It's basically a small world telling the events of what happened during the deluge of Grulovia, where he's played the Psychonauts as the villain, and him being the returning son to bring glory to it all. But really, he's just a maniacal maniac with delusions of grandeur who thinks he is the rightful ruler, and anyone who says anything to the contrary is just white noise. Not only is this scheme just fully explained in his small world variety of ride, like he kind of stated, it's kind of like if it's a small world if it was done by that stupid play near the end of Avatar Season 3. Crystal, you were a great twist villain. You were a great surprise villain. But your scheme is so convoluted, but there was literally 0 steps in it that I kind of love it. You almost succeeded, but if you just didn't go so hard to pushing Raz right from the start, I mean, yeah, it did give us a lot of people's minds to fix in the process and give a lot of therapy to people who actually needed it. So I guess your scheme helped out a lot of people. So now you can rot in jail with no caviar, you spoiled idiot. Lost Judgment, the spin-off of the Yakuza series, again, love detective series, but this one went so hard and so well that I honestly love it. From a perverted case of groping to murder, to a long, long history that showcases a lot of terrible things in society in a certain country. Okay, Japan, obviously. I mean, I'm not saying it's all the time, but from considering that a lot of the game, it takes place in that, and it does have a lot to do with it. They tackle a subject like that and mix it in with a PI detective, and the Yakuza series, they handle it. You know what? The series itself tackles these serious subjects so well. It's terrifying how it gets you. And the masterminds I'm talking about here, whose scheme is kind of a black and the evil isn't good and good isn't always good. I'm trying to mince my words, but I'm having a hard time explaining it. We have Jin Kuwana, a.k.a. Yuki Takata, and Ikihiro Ihara from Lost Judgment. Their scheme is something that Kuwana has been doing for a long time. Being a school teacher way back when, bullying was a very big issue, but sadly, not a lot of issues about it. Until Jin wanted to see if there was anything true to some of these rumors. And the bullying was terrible. So before he could retrieve a recording device that he used to record his classroom when he was a teacher, it was too late. And the student was, well, he was left in a coma for a long, long time. And obviously the blame was put on Kuwana because he was the teacher. He should have done something. And at that point, he made a decision. He found the bully responsible, the main bully, and gave the mother of the kid who was bullied a chance for revenge. And kept the body on ice for years. And that woman became a higher up in a division of the government. And so Kuwana began his journey to punish bullies in the worst possible way. And coming to this section that happened to the main focus, Ihara got revenge on his son's bully. Which is it's difficult. Kuwana and Ihara wanted to punish not just the bullies, but the entire Japanese justice system by getting convicted of being a groper in a public place with a bunch of, which was a setup. Kuwana got all the students that from the very first incident, he kept that footage all these years because being found that you're a terrible person in high school can damage someone's reputation, especially in a country like that. So he's been blackmailing these people his previous students for years for them to continue working in his schemes. So they set up the entire groping incident and made it big news. And during the trial, Ihara gave evidence about the victim of that was his son's bully, who then became a teacher himself. And Ihara couldn't stand that injustice of the guy who literally technically pushed his son to death. Well, not literally, but with his bullying, becoming a teacher in himself, the end of itself, and also being a bully to other students in that position. They want to make a mockery of the justice system. So Ihara mentioned that there's a dead body of the victim and that he did it. But the murder took place during the same time he was suspected groping. And that's the ball game there. If they drop the charges of the groping, they're admitting that they made a mistake with numerous amounts of evidence that was obviously faked, but it would make a mockery of the justice system, that a murderer and a groper planned this whole thing in order to make the justice system look like it's incompetent. And obviously they don't want to lose face, so they have to keep it hush. They can't try him. And obviously this whole brings forth another bigger issue later on, that what they've done sparked interest in others finding out the truth of what happened. I know I may not have explained it super well. I played the game once in my life, and it's a big game to play again. But Kuwana and Ihara, their hatred of bullies, and the driving force that brought them into what they did, it's a scheme that honestly would have gone right over my head if I didn't love detective games so much. And I'm glad I got this one. But yeah, it brings up a lot of tough subjects. And their scheme to make the bully, to screw over the justice system by making them look incompetent, because it's the same justice system that failed both of them in their lives. So, very rarely do I have to get serious a lot of the times without a lot of jokes in a segment, but it's just a plan that shows that when people have been ruined and the justice system and any kind of system forgets you and just showcases what some people are willing to do. And if I had played these games before I made this list, this character would have been on my traitors and backstabbers list. I finally played all 4 Sly Cooper video games, and I love it. And the biggest mastermind of the entire series, let's be honest, Nayla from Sly Band of Thieves. Nayla's scheme is so perfect. And it happens all without anyone ever realizing it until near the end of the game. 1. Help Carmelita Fox find Sly Cooper in the Cairo Museum in order for them to steal the clockwork parts, which the clockwork parts were already stolen by said Claw Gang to use for their nefarious scheme. Also, nice hint that Sly is in Egypt, considering that's what the end of the final game is. Thank you very much, guys. Nayla slyly hints about the Claw Gang, which makes the Sly and Company go after the Claw Gang to get back the clockwork parts. 2. Nayla meets up with Sly in the first few chapters of the game, helping out the entirety of their plan. Dropping hints, helping them with info. But then, after the 3rd chapter, she betrays us and brings in Contessa, who is obviously a secret member of the Claw Gang. Big fucking shock, because nobody trusts Spider Women. And then frames Carmelita she was working for the Sly Gang all the time, and then she gets a big promotion in Interpol. Then she's hunting us down in the final half of the game, trying to get back the clockwork parts for Interpol. Then, in the final, it's revealed she was a Claw Gang member the entire time and basically used us to collect the parts from Dimitri and Rajan and Contessa, and then John Bisson got them when he knocked us out and gave them all to the boss, Arpeggio. Once their scheme of getting enough hatred and with their spice and the people of Paris to go over to Paris to power up Clockwork's hate chip. Nayla then betrays Arpeggio and merges with the Clockwork body, becoming Clockla. And then kills the boss of the Claw Gang and is throughout the final level is flying around the airship base. And all of that was done in the first mission of the final start of the final level. So while we're destroying the airship and everything that's helping Clockla, she is just flying over us because she believes she is all powerful. And her entire scheme worked. She manipulated us. She manipulated Carmelita. She manipulated the Contessa. She manipulated Interpol. She manipulated Arpeggio just to get the Clockwork body. And why? Because she's a power-hungry woman. That's why. There's no deep-seated reason. She didn't hate. Although, as she's connected to the hate ship, she gets a deeper hatred for the Cooper gang. Much like how Clockwork did. But god damn it, this woman was manipulative from the start, and I love that her plan basically succeeded. And her plan did succeed. Even with her demise, she crippled Bentley in her last act of defiance to the Cooper gang, making him permanently paralyzed from the waist down. This is a children's game, right? Also, she also kills Arpeggio. Doesn't just betray him, but downright kills him. Will be 100% one of my favorite characters and villains of video game history. But there are two that outmatched you. I'm not going to lie. This is a villain that isn't that much of a villain. I mean, in the moment. This is a villain that's tricked us to getting rid of his enemies just so he can begin anew. I am talking about from Assassin's Creed Valhalla, we have Alfred the Great. We've run into Alfred a few times during the game, especially in the London chapter of the game, where we're defeating the last 3 bits of the Order of Ancients that are basically all story relevant. AKA the Gallows, the Quill, and the Sexton. No, the Sheath, Saber, whatever. So we kind of run past with him, and he's not particularly fond of us half the time. And I do like that after this chapter, if we go to London, we are basically on red alert because we are not welcome. But throughout the game, Hytham, Basim's protege, stays with us and gives us all the intel from someone calling himself a fellow soldier of Christ that's been giving us information on the majority of the Order of Ancients members that are story related. Giving us information on them that I never would have thought that this is where it would go. I thought it was some fellow assassin from a faraway land. But no, after we defeat every single member and finish the main story, it's revealed that Alfred himself is not only the fellow soldier of Christ, but the leader of the Order of Ancients. And when we go meet him in the far countryside where he's helping some poor people bake bread, I'm a little confused at this. But then it's revealed that the endowment of the leader was bestowed upon him when his father died and when his brother died. It's a title he didn't want because the Order's beliefs clash with his own as a Christian. And honestly, you can't really leave a secret organization like that. So he decided to use he decided to use Eivor and the Hidden Ones to eliminate the members so he can begin anew and start something that's more man-structured. And then he gives us a key to go to his study where we find some scriptures. And if you actually take the time to read them, it's revealed that we made a big, major fuck-up. Alfred's scriptures showcases that he wants to enact a society that fathers the father of understanding. Alfred basically had us destroy the Order of Ancients in order so he could rebuild the Templars. Upon realizing this, I literally shat myself playing this for the first time. I was awestruck. We were basically used out with the old and in with the new. We literally helped the Templars rise to power. And we never knew. It was something amazing. Honestly. I didn't see it coming for the life of me. I didn't know it was going to be Alfred. I thought, okay, maybe it was going to be his brother or something because he's too big of an important member of a figure to not be fully indoctored into this whole story. But god damn it, him being the guy who manipulated us to destroying his old allies just to create the Templars to breathe in a new era. Fuck me. It was brilliant. It was and unlike a lot of the twists that happened in the Assassin's Creed series, this one I could not have predicted in my wildest dreams, and I love it. Alfred was a keen mastermind who utilized his enemies against his people, and it was just so brilliant. And while Alfred did succeed in his goal with his whole scheme. And even in his death, his scheme lived on in the future Templars. My number one on this list is someone whose scheme succeeded even in his death. And we're going to it right now. This character is industrious, a criminal mastermind in his own right. And at the same time, the scheme is so diabolical, it came from the most unexpected source. One of my old-time favorite video game series that I just like to just put on once in a while and replay constantly, the CSI video game series. Yes, I'm dead serious. And this entry came from the one and only, the spin-off, CSI Miami. For those of you who have no goddamn clue, I am giving you Judge Walter Lawford. The judge appears at the during the first case of the game and is the victim of the final case, Final Judgment. While investigating the judge's death, which gunshot wound to the head in his own chamber in his estate. And as Horatio mentions that the judge believed in capital punishment, which was, I guess, let me see what it means. So here's the thing. As we go through all the evidence that we collect throughout the game, one big hitch always happens in a lot of CSI games is that previous suspects come back for the final case, or sometimes all the cases in general have some combination, have some intertwining elements that results in the end of the final case. And this is the only one where it's done so masterfully. As we go through a lot of this evidence, some of our previous suspects come back. For example, lawyer from case 2 and 4, the infamous Donnie Bronson, as we find a data disk that has a message that says, I have my speculations that famous lawyer Donnie Bronson has been involved with jury tampering. And obviously he has a record for contempt of court. And also, the 4 previous murderers of the previous cases are all suspects. Except for number 2, he wasn't really arrested because we didn't have a murder weapon until we find something in a hidden compartment in the judge's place, which was bloody golf cleats. But I'm mad that we didn't get a scene where we bring this to the second murderer and say that we found the murder weapon. So that was a missed opportunity. But as we discuss them, we find out that the judge wasn't as great as as he was led to believe. He was writing a memoirs. Consider the title, The Price of Crime, How the Courts Sell Justice to the Highest Bidder. So basically, the judge was basically writing a tell-all about all the deep-seated stuff that was going on in Miami, which a lot of people wouldn't want published. But it was a ghostwriter that ended up shooting the judge because he thought that the judge committed suicide. Because think about it, if you're going to be naming a lot of big people doing very bad, nasty things, you need to make sure you're running with a full deck because he didn't want people to think that the judge was loony. And then, in a fun thing, while talking to all the previous killers, we find out that the judge was very informative for them, telling them little secrets about the people that they killed, stuff about the did. For example, first case, victim's husband was sleeping around. Second case, business partner was trying to set him up for drug trafficking. Third was a serial killer, which was given information on someone who was doing, which ended up she would have been a target anyway. And the fourth one of the one person trying to blackmail someone to being left out of an inheritance. So the judge had a hand in everything. Not only that, but a lot of the evidence around his poisoning revolves around Donnie Bronson. Fingerprint on his medicine bottle, fingerprint on the printer. and Donnie Bronson visited the judge previously. So the whole scheme, as Horatio says to Donnie, saying that the judge was a game player with his mind games around and all 4 of the murderers are Donnie Bronson's clients. And again, I don't believe in coincidences. So when I first played the game long time ago, it was starting to hit on me. And the judge even left some evidence. His favorite scotch, his shoe prints, his DNA, and his fingerprints at all 4 of the murderers' houses after we locked them up. So the judge was playing a long game. And then, after finding out that each murderer was received a color code and number, which resulted in this roulette wheel in the judge's study. We open it and we find a little quote of Shakespeare that leads us to the bust. I know I'm going on a tangent, but it gets somewhere, I promise. In the bust is a videotape in which we play it, and the judge tells us that we've won the game. And he explains that over his years, he's seen that the justice system was going soft, and that criminals were basically being allowed to run free on the crimes, especially with people like Donnie Bronson, saying he's a swindler who's an expensive paid mouthpiece who could get even the most guilty of people off. And then it turns out that he was dying. So he decided to deal out justice by talking to 4 of Donnie Bronson's clients and basically slightly giving them hints on the people that they were thinking about killing to either prove themselves or obviously none of them did. And he said that he made sure that the victims were 2 criminals or evil sinners. And he even set up Donnie Bronson for his own murder. But he stated that if you've won the game and you're watching this tape, Donnie Bronson will not be joining his clients, although there will be punishment. As a duplicate disc of my memoirs, which will be found at my publisher in several months, Donnie B will be disgraced and likely disbarred. And then the final of the video, he carries out one final sentence where he is a criminal mastermind and that Horatio has no doubt reminded you, I've always believed in capital punishment. Cheers. And drinks his own spiked drink. Judge Walter Lawford deserves to be my #1 video game mastermind because he shows up in the first case, gives us a little help during the investigation, and then he's not seen for the rest of the game. But then he is the mastermind behind all 4 murders and setting up Donnie to be the fall guy. And with his memoir, with his book, literally disgracing the DA, the attorney. Even in his death, he still won. His plan went off without a hitch. 4 murders committed. Donnie Bronson basically being disbarred. All within one game of a game series that a lot of people don't really play a lot of because it's a CSI game. It's not that deep, but it went so deep in this. And that is why I love these games. And I love this character. Such a criminal mastermind above characters who've been in numerous games. Well, actually, that's not true. Some of them have only been in one game. But overall, giving us a great scheme, a great plan, and even in his death, his whole plan went the way he planned it. I got to give credit to every single criminal mastermind on this list. It definitely was fun writing this list, and even more so going back and reliving all these amazing moments. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen, for my top 13 video game masterminds. Like, comment, subscribe down below, and join me next week as I end the month of April, where finally that we're in the grand line, I give ideas on what could happen in the first big arc of the live action as we head into the desert city of Alabasta. This is Gamer K, logging out.